The evening started as most late-night shows do, with laughter, applause, and a sense of anticipation in the air. Clint Eastwood, the legendary actor and director known for his gritty on-screen personas and off-screen mystery, was announced as the night's main guest on Jimmy Kimmel Live. The crowd erupted, and the energy shifted instantly. Dressed in a classic suit with that unmistakable stern gaze, Clint entered to thunderous applause. Jimmy welcomed him with a smile, cracking a light joke about Clint's long Hollywood legacy. At first, the conversation was smooth, reminiscing about Dirty Harry, discussing the challenges of directing at his age, and reflecting on how cinema has changed over the decades. But it didn't take long before the interview took a different tone. Jimmy brought up recent political statements Clint had made in a prior press conference, remarks that had stirred controversy. Clint's expression hardened slightly, but he remained composed, nodding slowly, preparing to respond. Kimmel pressed further, citing critics who accused Clint of being out of touch with modern values. He asked, "Do you think some of your views are a bit old school for today's Hollywood?" Clint, unamused, fired back, "I think the world's gone soft, Jimmy. People used to have thick skin. Now they cry over every word." The audience gave a mixed reaction. Some chuckled nervously. Others stayed quiet. Jimmy tried to lighten the mood, joking, "Well, you might be scaring my producers right now." Clint didn't laugh. "Maybe they need to be scared," he said, his tone dry but sharp. The audience shifted in their seats. You could feel the tension grow like a slow-burning fuse. Jimmy, never one to shy away from uncomfortable territory, tried to steer the discussion back, but Clint wasn't done. He criticized modern media, saying it's full of cowards and virtue signalers. Suddenly, the crowd's energy dropped, and Jimmy knew they had crossed into dangerous territory for network TV. Trying to keep the show on track. Jimmy asked about Clint's upcoming film, but Clint, still stewing, replied curtly, "It's a film for adults, not kids who think Twitter is activism." That remark drew groans and some awkward applause. Jimmy tried humor again. "Well, I hope the kids still go watch it, Clint. We love their ticket money." Clint didn't crack a smile. "Maybe they should grow up first," the crowd murmured. This wasn't a funny segment anymore. It was raw. Kimmel paused for a beat and looked at the producers, subtly signaling for how to proceed. Behind the camera, people were scrambling. Clint had gone off script, and it was live. Jimmy, always sharp, leaned into the discomfort. "You've always been direct, Clint. But don't you think there's value in sensitivity, especially today?" Clint's reply was icy. "Sensitivity doesn't build a country, it weakens it." The room went still. The conversation had taken a sharp turn from edgy to explosive. The moment that tipped everything came when Jimmy asked about a previous comment Clint made regarding cancel culture. Clint replied, "Cancel culture is a joke, country that erases. People for thinking differently is a country in decline." Jimmy responded, "But isn't there a difference between free speech and speech that harms?" Clint fired back, "Who decides that, Jimmy?" "You." Jimmy laughed awkwardly. "No, not me. But society has to draw a line somewhere." Clint leaned in. "That's the problem. The line keeps moving." The audience was silent. This was no longer entertainment, it was a debate on stage. The back and forth became more intense, and while Jimmy maintained a smile, his eyes were concerned. Clint wasn't backing down. "You don't like what I say? Don't listen. But don't tell me what I can't say. That's un-American." A few audience members clapped, but many looked toward the exits, unsure what to make of the situation. The live show had veered into unfamiliar territory. Producers finally cut to commercial abruptly. When the show returned, Clint was no longer on stage. Jimmy, back at his desk, said with an uneasy laugh, "Well, sometimes the conversation gets a little too real for late night." Clint had to leave a little early. The audience gave polite applause, but everyone knew something serious had just happened. Social media exploded. Clips of the argument circulated within minutes. Hashtags like hashtag Eastwood vs. Kimmel and hashtag Clint walks out trended on Twitter. Commentators across platforms debated who was in the right. Was Clint too harsh, or was Jimmy too politically correct? Opinions were split. On conservative sites, Clint was hailed as a hero for standing his ground. On others, he was criticized for being aggressive and outdated. One thing was clear. The incident had become more than just a heated interview. It was a cultural flashpoint. In the days that followed, KBC issued a short statement confirming Clint's departure from the set mid-interview, citing creative differences. Jimmy Kimmel, on his next episode, offered a subtle nod to the moment. Sometimes conversation turns into a confrontation, but that's part of doing this live. He didn't name Clint directly, but thanked his audience for being cool under pressure. Clint Eastwood's camp, on the other hand, released a brief and unapologetic statement. Mr. Eastwood speaks his mind. Always has, always will. That line was quoted across media outlets and became a rallying cry among supporters who felt modern media silences authenticity. Memes, remixes, and parody videos flooded TikTok and Instagram. And the late-night world buzzed with speculation over whether Clint would ever be invited back. The clash had become a symbol of generations' ideologies and the limits of civil conversation on television. The fallout also extended to the entertainment industry. Celebrities began weighing in, some defending Clint for refusing to bend to public expectations, others calling his behavior problematic. Talk shows discussed the power dynamics between aging icons and modern hosts. Panelists debated whether Clint's views represented honesty or dangerous nostalgia. Younger viewers in particular seemed torn. While many admired his legendary status, they questioned whether legends should be above accountability. It's not about silencing him, one pundit said. It's about challenging ideas that don't reflect today's values. Yet older fans argued that challenging Eastwood's words was itself a form of disrespect. In the end, the divide wasn't just about politics. It was about what society expects from its public figures and whether age and legacy excuse certain attitudes. The Clint Eastwood incident sparked broader discussions on censorship, generational divides, and the role of talk shows in hosting controversial figures. Jimmy Kimmel was praised for maintaining composure, though some critics said he should have pushed back harder. Others noted how the moment demonstrated live television's unpredictability, its raw, unscripted reality. The fact that Eastwood, at his age and status, could still make waves proved that fame doesn't fade, evolves. Whether one agreed with his words or not, the intensity of the reaction showed that the audience still expects TV to be both entertaining and responsible. That tension between shock value and social accountability is likely to shape future interviews. Producers will think twice about inviting controversial guests without a plan for damage control. The lines between conversation, confrontation, and cancellation have never been blurrier. And yet, for all the backlash and viral moments, the encounter also reminded people of something else: the power of conversation, even uncomfortable ones. Clint Eastwood reminded viewers that conviction doesn't always come with a filter. Jimmy Kimmel reminded them that humor can't always smooth over disagreement. The moment they clashed, to America's collided one that wants to move forward, and one that clings to the old ways. But in that clash, people watched, learned, and debated. Maybe that's what live TV is supposed to do, not just entertain, but challenge us, shake us up, make us talk. Because if nothing else, when Clint Eastwood was ejected from Jimmy Kimmel's show, he left behind more than just an empty chair. He left behind a spark,